Good morning, guys. We are doing indicator 6 today, and indicator 6 is all about fractions. And basically, the most important thing this indicator is dealing with is division of fractions and fraction model. So that might be something new to you, I'm not sure. But fraction model is a skill that you've got to master. Now, I know that some of you may have forgotten previous skills with fractions. I want to make sure that you understand those skills before we can move on to division of fractions. So that is why I'm going to break this lesson to 4 different videos so that you can see each of those skills. I am going to teach you addition and subtraction of fractions. I'm going to teach you multiplication of fractions in a different video. I'm going to teach you division of fractions and then dividing fractions using fraction models. Okay, so that's a big one. Which, fraction is like very well mastered in 5th grade. But I just want to make sure that we are not moving forward without your understanding of this. Otherwise, you are going to get stuck in the following units, okay? So let's start with addition and subtraction of fractions, all right? And you can see your learning target. For indicator 6, I can construct a fraction model to represent dividing fractions, and I can calculate and explain quotients of fractions. So these are the 2 learning targets for this lesson, but I'm throwing in adding, subtracting, as well as multiplying as an extra stuff, which you've got to really master also, okay, before we get to division. So let's quickly review the vocabulary words, all right? And these are the vocabulary words that pertain to fractions. So a numerator, number, which is on the top. So if I write a fraction out like this, if I say 2/7, the number which is above this line over here is called the numerator. And then down would be the denominator. You're saying down, so think of the D. So this is the number at the bottom is my denominator. This is my denominator. Please remember also that the fraction line signifies division. Okay, so this line actually signifies division. Okay, that means 2 divided by 7, or you can write 2/7. Okay, so improper fraction, this is a proper fraction. A proper fraction is one in which the numerator is smaller than the denominator. But if it is flipped, or if my denominator, my numerator becomes bigger than my denominator, then it is an improper fraction. So if I write 9/4, you can see that my numerator is greater than my denominator, so therefore this is an improper fraction. Okay? Now, a mixed number, basically you have an improper fraction, and this is how you convert it to a mixed number. I am doing 9/4, so numerator divided by the denominator. Okay? And I know that 4 times 2 is 8. So 2 times 4, I'm going to write 8 here. And 9 minus 8 is 1. So my remainder becomes the numerator. And then my denominator is going to stay the same. So 2 and 1/4 is my mixed number because it has a whole number part which is attached to a fraction. So I just showed you how to make an improper fraction to a mixed number. In order to convert a mixed number to an improper fraction, basically all you do is you multiply the denominator with the whole number part. So 2 times 4 is 8, and add the numerator. So plus 1, so 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1, you get 9. And the denominator stays the same. So see, we are back to the original. Okay, so mixed number to an improper fraction. This is just a review of material you have done in the past. A reciprocal of another number is when you multiply a number with its flipped version or with its reciprocal, your product will always be 1. So if I say 2/3, the reciprocal or the flipped version of 2/3 would be 3/2. And when I said about the product being 1, this is what it means. If I do 2/3 times 3/2, so I can simplify. That's one thing you've got to learn to do in math is simplify before you multiply. Instead of doing 2 times 3, 6, divided by 3 times 2, 6, and you get 1, because when we start dealing with larger numbers, you've got to know how to simplify. So when you have multiplication in the middle, anything from the top to the bottom can be simplified. So 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. 3 divided by 3 gives me 1. So I am left with 1. So this is what I'm talking about. When you multiply a fraction with its reciprocal or a number with its reciprocal, you are going to end up with 1. When I say number, it could have been 2. And what is the reciprocal of 2? It would be 1/2. So if I do 2 times 1/2, it will end up to 1. So that's what the reciprocal means. And quotient is the answer to a division problem. So these are the words which you really need to be familiar with. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve some problems. So I'm going to start first with problems in which my denominators are the same. Okay, so if I say 1/8 and if I say 2/8, these problems are extremely simple because you don't have to do anything to the denominators. Denominator is already the same for you all. So when I have the same denominator, all I do is I write the denominator and then I add the numerators. And 1 plus 2 is 3. 8 is my final answer. Okay? If my final answer or the sum did not come up to a number which was simplified, you would have to simplify. You've got to simplify those fractions and put it in the simplest form. That means, what if I had 1/8 plus 3/8, for example? And I can see my denominators are the same. So this is 8, and then 1 plus 3, and I get 4/8. Now we can see that 4 and 8 are, this is not, this is not in the simplest form. So I would have to put this fraction in the simplest form, and I get 1/2. Please remember, this is why the divisibility rules are so important, because if you're trying to find what both the numbers are divisible by, and sometimes it's not so apparent, and you have to use the divisibility rules to figure out if both numbers are divisible by 3 or 4 or 5, etc. Okay? Another way to simplify fractions, and I just want to show you that, if I had taken 4 and I had taken 8, and if you remember the greatest common factor that we have done on in indicator 2, so here we go. And I can see both are even numbers, so divide by 2, and I get 2 and 4, because 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, and then again both are even numbers, so 2, and I get 1, and I get 2 here. So basically, what was I doing? I was simplifying by 4, just like this, and I ended up with 1/2. So look, the simplest version is up here. So this is a really cool way for you to simplify, also using the GCF method. Okay, now let's talk about when we have denominators that are different. Okay, that are different. So I'm going to use 1/16 plus 1/8, and then I can do one which is 1/5 minus 1/25. So, or I can do, well, let's just change this to, let's say, 2/25. Okay, so when I have different denominators, I cannot just go and straight up do 1 plus 1 and 16 plus 8. That is absolutely wrong. You have got to find the least common denominator, and the least common denominator is nothing but the LCM of the denominators, the least common multiple of the denominators, and you know how to find LCM now. So if I take 16 and I take 8, make an L for else, so, and we know that these are divisible by 2. So 8 times 2 is 16, 4 times 2 is 8. Now we can still go by 2 or we can go by 4. It doesn't matter. I know that 8 is divisible by 4. So I'll do 2 and 1. And so now nothing else is common. So I am going to make an L. So this is again a lesson which we have already done. And so 2 times 4 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, times 1 is 16. So 16 is my least common denominator. So I am going to write 16 over here, and I'm going to write 16 over here. I want both denominators to be exactly the same. All right? Then once I have done that, I'm going to look at, okay, 16 times what gives me 16? 16 times 1 gives me 16. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have got to do exactly the same thing to the numerator. So then I will do times 1, which is 1. And then I look at the next number. 8 times what gives me 16? 8 times 2 gives me 16. Whatever I do to the denominator, I do the same thing to the numerator, times 2. And 1 times 2 is going to be 2. And now, since I have exactly the same denominators, all I'm going to do is write 16 and 1 plus 2, which is going to give me 3/16 as my answer. Okay, so that is my sum of the fractions. Now let's do the difference. If I do the difference of the fractions, I am again going to see that over here 5 is different from 25. So the denominators are not the same. So I'm going to find the least common denominator, and that is the LCM of the denominators. And I'm going to write it out like this. And I get, by 5, I get 1, and I get 5 times 5 is 25. Nothing else is common, so I am going to make an L to find the LCM. 5 times 1 is 5, times 5 is 25. So my least common multiple of the denominators, which is my LCD, least common denominator, is 25. So I'm going to write 25 now under both the fractions. And then I'm going to see, okay, 5 times what gives me 25? So if I do 5 times 5, I get 25. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do the same thing to the numerator. So times 5, and I get 5 times 1 is 5 here. And then 25 times 1 is 25. So times 1 is going to give me 2. Now I have the same denominators. So I'm going to write 25 and then 5 minus 2, which gives me 3/25 as my difference of this problem. Also know your vocabulary. Sum means answer to an addition problem. Difference means answer to a subtraction problem. Okay? Now, let's do a problem really quick with mixed numbers. Okay? So mixed number addition, subtraction. Again, this is a review of the previous grade. And please know this material really well. Okay? So if I give you 2 1/3 plus 4 1/3, okay? So this is very, very simple again because we have the same denominator, so it's much easier to calculate. Now, when I have this, I'm going to show you 2 different methods that you can use. One is, since it's addition, I can take the whole number part. So I can take the whole number part and add this part, okay? And then I can take the fractional part and add them. Okay, so let me just write it. I can write it like this, doesn't matter either. Okay, so if I say 2 plus 4, I get 6. And since the denominators are the same, basically this is 3 and 1 plus 1 is 2. So 6 and 2/3 is my answer. So this is one way to do it, okay? Another way you can do that same problem is you can convert it to improper fractions and then solve it. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1, which is 7/3. So this is an improper fraction. Plus 4 times 3 is 12 plus 1, which is 13/3. And then, since now the denominators are the same, I just add 7 plus 13 and I get 20. And then when I divide 20 by 3 and I am, finding the mixed number, this is basically what I'm doing, 20 divided by 3. And 6 times 3 is 18 and I get a remainder of 2. So this 2 becomes my numerator and my denominator is going to be 3. So 6 and 2/3. So as you can see, whether I do it this way or I do it this way, my sum is going to be the same. Now let me show you one where the denominators are different, okay? So again, I'm going to show you both methods. You can pick and choose as to which one works for you, all right? So if I have 8 and 1/2 plus 2 and 3/4. Okay? So in this case, all I'm going to do again, I am going to do 8 plus 2, which is the whole number part. And then I'm going to do the fractional part, which is 1/2 plus 3/4. Okay, now we know that the denominators are different over here. Okay, so in this case, we will have to find the least common denominator. So 8 plus 2 is 10. And then even if I was thinking about this, I have 3/4 and another 1/4 gives me 1 whole, and then I have another 1/4 left because 1/4 and 1/4 gives me 1/2. So you can think of it that way. But if you were trying to find the least common denominator, that is fine also, okay? So we know in 2 and 4, my least common denominator is going to be 4. Okay, so times 1 times 2, so it is 4. So if I wrote 4 here plus 4 here, I know that times 2, same thing to the numerator, which is 2, times 1, which is 3. So I get 10, and 3 plus 2 is going to be 5/4. Now, if I look at 5/4, okay, if I remove from 5/4, if I remove 1 whole is what? 4/4. Because 4 on 4 gives me 1 whole. Okay? So if I remove that, I am left with just 1/4. And this 1 whole, because 4/4 is equal to 1 whole, this I'm going to add to the 10. And this becomes 11 and 1/4. So this is my final answer. So we are just regrouping over here. Okay, we are just regrouping. You can also do it this way. 8 and 1/2 plus 2 and 3/4. So I can convert this to an improper fraction and then solve it. So 8 times 2 is 16 plus 1 is 17/2 plus 2 times 4 is 8 plus 3 gives me 2 times 4 is 8, gives me 11/4. Okay, so when I have this, now all I can do is I'm going to go ahead and add this up. And I get, well, my denominators are not the same, so I have to find the LCD. That's the first step. And I know that the LCD is going to be 4. So times 2 gives me 4 times 2. 17 times 2 gives me 34. Times 1 gives me 11. And then when I add this up, I get 45 over 4. And then when I simplify, meaning I convert it to a mixed number, 1 times 4 is 4. And this is 0, bring this down. And then I have 1 times 4 is going to give me again 4. Remainder is 1. So I get 11 and 1/4 as my final mixed number. Okay. Now, if you were doing it this way in 6th grade math, if you have left an improper fraction, it is also okay. The only time where you cannot leave an improper fraction is when you're trying to find how many t-shirts can somebody buy or something like that, and then you get a fractional part. Guess what? The 1/4, nobody wants 1/4 of a t-shirt. Then you have to use your logic, because when you can say, look at the learning target, I can calculate, explain quotients of fractions. So you've got to know that only 11 t-shirts can be bought with this cost. You don't write 11 and 1/4, because nobody wants to buy 1/4 of a t-shirt. Okay, so that's where what is reasonable comes in. All right, so this is a lesson about addition and subtraction of fractions. It's a review from your previous year, and I just want to make sure that you understand this before moving on to the next lesson. All right, have a nice day.